Right now, medicine is more advanced than ever. Gene therapy can restore sight to the blind. ATMPs can cure deadly disease. But here's the problem. Most patients will never get them. Why? Imagine a child born blind suddenly seeing for the first time. A cancer patient given months to live, suddenly cured. The science works, but hospitals, regulations, and outdated systems are blocking access. If we don't fix this, the most life-changing therapies will stay out of reach.
If we can treat the kids, they can keep their sight and they can keep their sensibility to.
The real problem isn't the science, it's the infrastructure. How do we make these treatments affordable, scalable, and accessible to everyone? Artificial intelligence, automation, and new production models could change everything. But the big question is, will the system adapt fast enough?
Will it be possible to build these infrastructures and manufacturing laboratories within the hospitals?
Today's speaker, Kristina Levan, has spent years in the cutting edge of cancer research, clinical trials, and ATMP development. She helped shape Sweden's national ATMP strategy, connecting industry, healthcare, and academia to push these breakthroughs forward. Now she is tackling the next big challenge, getting these treatments to patients faster.
And that is probably what we need. Closed systems that are managing themselves would be useful for them.
What if hospitals could manufacture medicine on site? What if cures could be tailored in real time to every patient? This isn't science fiction. It's the future of medicine, and it's closer than you think. The best conversations happen when the right people come together. And that's where you come in. Every follow, every comment, and every single share makes this podcast more visible. The more engagement we get, the bigger the guests, the deeper the insights, and the more industry-changing ideas we can bring you. If you want to see more conversations like this, help the show grow. Let's build something incredible together. This episode today is for CEOs, policymakers, and investors who want to understand the future of healthcare. If you care about innovation, access, and the next medical revolution, you don't want to miss this. Start listening now. Kristina, it's good to see you. And from which city are you calling?
I'm calling from a little village outside of Gothenburg in Sweden, on the west coast of Sweden.
Oh, a little village. What's the name of the village?
It's called Bollebygd.
Well, I can't spell.
No, it's complicated. It's quite close to the airport, to the Gothenburg airport, Landvetter.
Yeah, that's very comfortable. I always thought Swedish is close to German, to our language. Is this?
Yeah, I think it is. For us, we see a lot of similar words, but I think the grammar isn't the same, I think. So, but it's also difficult to understand German for us.
Do you understand German when you hear it at BIOS, for example?
No, not really. No, maybe some words, but not the full sort of sentences. No.
Yes, learning Swedish is on my list, so maybe next year.
Really?
I think it's interesting. I mean, it's the land of the Vikings. And since I saw the series, I think it started in 2014 and stopped on Netflix 2 years ago or something. And Vikings are quite impressive.
I haven't seen that show, actually, so maybe I should. Have you been to Sweden before?
At Bio, the last time was...
in Bio Europe, of course, yeah.
At Bio Europe, where I was impressed by the dimension. So it was a really long drive from the airport to the city.
Yeah. Did you rent a car or did you go by train?
Cab, taxi.
Okay, yeah, because taxi. I think it's the easiest way is by train.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hopped on a taxi and it was 80 kilometers, if I remember it right. And it was really beautiful. It reminded me of Canada.
Yes. I think there are many similarities from Sweden to Canada. Yeah.
BioEurope is a great starting point for our conversation. It's where we met. You had a speech about ATMP. And sorry to say so, but I always think about tennis when I hear AT and P. So it's I think this was the tennis league back then, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy that we can have this conversation today. Let's start the conversation with the 3 core messages that you want the listeners to take away from today's conversation.
Yeah, so what I would like the listeners to take with them is to have a little bit more awareness, of course, about ATMP and what they are and what they can do. And also, I would like to also bring some focus to the role of the hospitals when it comes to the innovation process. I hope we can talk a little bit about that. And I think also one message that I think is important is the need of collaboration, both over different professions, but also different stakeholders to make success.
Super great. I have taken some notes to focus my questions on these 3 parts. Also, maybe we can start for business people like me who have zero understanding of life science and research. Maybe we can start with the basics and define what ATMP is. It's not a tennis league, so.
No, it's not a tennis league. No. It's a medicinal product. So ATMP stands for Advanced Therapy Medicinal Products, and it's a new category of innovative medical treatments that are based on cells and genes and tissues, or tissues, you might say. So they are designed to treat or prevent diseases. So they can offer more like a new options for conditions that didn't have any treatments available before. There are different types. So you have the gene therapy that uses the genetic material, and they will modify or replace faulty genes as genes that does not function. Then we have the somatic cell therapy, which uses the cells, and they can manipulate cells that are then used to repair or replace or regenerate diseased tissues or cells in the body. And then the maybe more complex, I'm not sure if it's more complex, but it's tissue engineered products. Mm-hmm. So you can replace. You can use cells or tissues that are modified to replace or repair damaged tissue or structures in the body. And these therapies are very highly regulated, and they are very complex, and there are some potential risks and ethical considerations, but they have also a great promise of success when it comes to efficient treatments.
That's good. I see that you also invited a guest to join our show. It's in the background, I think. Am I right? You have a cat.
It's Siggy.
Siggy.
Yes.
It's a he. Or is it
it's a he. Yeah. So you can see him.
Yeah. Black cat. I mean, I have 2 cats myself, so I'm.
You do?
Yeah. I'm programmed to see cats, so it was just. I think I'm not sure if he was lying there or just walked in, but while he was speaking, he was looking around.
Yeah. He's a Siberian cat.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Yeah, it's
very
is he allowed to go outdoors?
No, actually not. But I think that's maybe the more normal thing, because we are also living in the countryside. So we're just scared that he will be hit by the train or the cars running by. So.
And it must be pretty cold in Sweden in winter, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes it's very cold, but at the moment I think we have 4 or 5 degrees. So.
Same weather like in Vienna, like we have here. Let's go back to ATMP. How has the landscape in Sweden evolved in the last decade in this area?
So I think in Sweden we have had quite dramatic development in a positive way. We have had a lot of focus on trying to build an ecosystem and innovation system in Sweden that could support the development of ATMP. So what we have seen lately is that before there were just, the small community working with ATMPs that were aware of what it actually is and what it could be, what could be the use for the society. But now we see that we have a lot of decision makers that are aware of ATMP, and we can see that the government also included it in the new national life science strategy, or the updated one that they presented in November last year. So this is of course very important, because in order to make the changes that we think are needed in policies and the introduction and how to handle the products when they're actually approved, but also supporting the innovations and the transition from the preclinic to a commercialized product. It's very important with the funding from the government as well. So we see that we have a growing community and a growing awareness in Sweden the last couple of years. A big change.
It's good to hear that the government is supporting the development and is putting also some money on the table, which is usually development very important to get some funds. When we go back to ATMP and cover then the policy side and policymaker side a little bit later in the conversation, why are they so revolutionary in healthcare?
One of the things with ATMP is that they don't only treat the symptoms, but they can actually cure patients. And we see that they have the potential of treating different indications and conditions that has not been able to or did not have any available treatment before. So this is of course a game changer, that you can see that we now have products that can do so different things that we were able to do before. And what we see is that they are also asking a lot from the healthcare. So they are very complex and they need to be handled sometimes in a very specific and complex way. The administration and the side effects can also sometimes be something that you need to be prepared for, and you have to have a readiness level within the hospitals to be able to handle that. So what we think in Sweden is that and I think in general people working in the healthcare, is that we need to do different activities and start working with the questions that will be that we will have to handle in a few years. So what we do in Sweden is a lot of preparation and increasing the readiness level within the healthcare with personnel training, and we need to build specific infrastructures that we might already have, but we need to have larger or more resources.
That's great. I think ATMP for me, it's an abstract term, and when we talk about the science behind it, it's usually for me not so much tangible. Do you have a real life example or something that is in development, a case study that we can walk through to help the listener to understand what ATMP treatments are currently available on the market and how they work and what benefits they create for patients?
So there is, so we have different examples, but one example that we can maybe talk a little bit about is the CAR T cell therapy. People might have heard about that. And this is a groundbreaking gene therapy, and so now you use them to treat different types of blood cancers, such as acute lymphoblastic leukemia, for example. And these right now the products are used only for the patients that do not sort of respond to any other treatment. But we hope that this treatment can be moved a little bit earlier on in the treatment to get even better effects. But it works as you have to take the T cells from the blood from the patient. So this is the starting point. So you take the T cells or the blood from the patient and collect the T cells. And this is actually the starting material for the product. And this needs to be handled in a very specific way, and you need to have specific licensing and also training from the company, and follow the routines that they are that follows the product, so to say. So the product is or the blood is collected, and the T cells are then sent to the company that will take care of the genetic changes in the cells. And what they do is that they introduce a gene so that the cells can express a specific type of receptor that will then be used to connect to the cancer cells and destroy them when the product is then administered to the patient. And you see really good effects from this.
Can we summarize it that it's basically training the own immune system of the patient to attack the cancer cells? So it's basically
exactly. Yeah, so they will identify the cancer cells and be more specific when they do their work, so to say. Yeah.
Is this something in development, or is there already a therapy approved by the FDA or the EMA?
Yeah, so this we have, I think, in Sweden, we use 4 CAR-T products that are approved by the EMA, but also by the Swedish authorities to be introduced within the Swedish healthcare with the HTA analysis and reimbursement and everything.
I'm always curious how to implement that in the healthcare system, because I mean, it's a two-way system, and everything else in the pharma industry I always perceived as a one-way system. You ship something to a hospital, and then they
store it
to the patient. You store it, and then you give it to the patient. But this CAR-T cell is a two-way process, so they need to extract at the hospital, need probably special equipment for that, then ship it in time and very fast to an external facility, a manufacturer, and they then ship the T cells back. Is this complicated to implement in European healthcare systems?
Yeah, it is complicated. I wasn't around when the first one was introduced. I just started working with ATMP just after. But what we can see is that we are now more prepared than we were to begin with. But there are a lot of things that we need to have. We need to have specific accreditations in the hospital, and we also need to have this specific training from the companies for their specific product. And we also need to, if there are more patients that will be treated, we also need to have more resources in the hospitals. And we see that it's also more complex when we have more products, because every product, more or less, have its own way of handling. Which makes it very complex for the hospitals, because you want to be able to give the patients sort of all these kinds of different CAR-T products, but still it will be very complicated for the hospital staff to be aware of exactly where the differences in the handling are and so forth. So I think what we are also asking for from the hospital perspective is to be more standardized handling of the products. And there are also very many different types of documentation that follows the product. So you need to be traceable, since it's very, very sort of important that the right product comes back to the right patient. And this also complicates it a little bit for the hospitals. But we see that we have a really good contact with the companies, but they are global. So we have to have, they have already maybe introduced their products elsewhere, and they did the clinical trials in this specific process. So we have to be connected already early on with the clinical trials and in the connection when they are developing their products and doing all the research, so that we can try to get more standardized and harmonized protocols for the products.
This must be a lot of training for the hospital staff, additional training for each product.
It's a lot of training and qualifications for the hospitals, so it takes a lot of time. Now we see that we have a second product coming from the same company that is introduced, and we can see that that has been easier than a new product from a different company, because they have already qualified the hospital different parts. Yeah.
What about the equipment in the hospital? I mean, is it standard? Can this be done with standard equipment, or is it also something they need to invest in?
So no, I think that we do most of the things, but maybe not connected to each other. So this is also something that we see in Sweden. We have introduced or established something that we call ATMP centers, where we can try to support the different functions in the hospital to be connected and to work together. So, and also to have the contact, a lot of the contact with the companies to start before they need to have a contact with the lab and the clinicians. They can talk to us, and we can try to facilitate and organize, so it will be maybe more efficient and maybe not as much as time consuming for the doctors and for the lab personnel. But I think it's we are still training, and we also have good contact, I think, with the companies and the organizations for the pharma, so that we can raise the questions and discuss what the companies think is complicated in contact with the hospitals, and the other way as well.
No, it's amazing how oncology and also the hospitals evolved in the last 5 to 10 years, especially in oncology.
It's impressive. Yeah, I agree.
When we look at the developments in ATMP, is there any recent development or breakthrough that excites you in this area?
I think there are so many things happening in ATMPs. I think that's quite a difficult questions to answer, because I think it's so exciting, all of it. You know, there are so many new things coming, but we see some really impressive new therapies that are treating conditions, monogenetic conditions for children, which of course is very, it's wonderful to see that you can treat these kids already early on, and that they can have a totally different sort of development because of the gene therapy. And we also have this really interesting example of Luxturna, which is a therapy for inherited blindness, which has also been, I listened to patients describe what they are, their experience when they are now seeing light in a totally different way than they did before. So they can move around and see things that they haven't seen in years. And this is also something that is progressing when you get older. So if we can treat the kids, they can keep their sight, and they can keep their sensibility to light. So they say that it's like a change from night to day, because that they have they can see the light again instead of just darkness. So that's
great. That's great. I mean, this is a lifetime. You give a kid back a full lifetime of quality, a high quality lifetime.
Yeah.
This is amazing to hear. One question that I need to ask, I mean, when I open social media these days. I think everybody's excited about artificial intelligence. This week, China put a new model on the market, and the Nasdaq plummeted, and immediately people screamed, "It's over! It's over! Now China's coming, and the US is done." It's a lot of emotion on social media.
Have you tried it, the Chinese?
No. I'm pretty happy with ChatGPT. I've spent 2 years with that model, and they have made a lot of development, which I can use for my work to improve communication, to improve emails, to make the process around the podcast much easier. It works well. I'm happy with it. So
Yeah, I'm also using ChatGPT, so I think I agree with you. I haven't tried the other one, but it's a time for everything.
I don't see many. What I'm waiting for are agents, basically, that can take over some tasks. ChatGPT is going in that direction, but it's not fully there yet, in my opinion. But just to have a new LLM, a new model for the sake of having the model. I mean, I have Grok. I tried Grok from X.com.
I don't know about that.
It's former Twitter. If you just get a Twitter subscription, you get automatically their model. Then I tried Gemini from Alphabet. The model that works well for me is ChatGPT currently for my tasks. And the new Chinese model, it's the fourth model. Then I say, well, why should I try a fourth model on top of the three that they already...
Yeah, I already picked your one that you like working with. But isn't it also that if you have used it before, right, so it gets trained on what you need, so then you have to sort of start from the beginning again, right?
I think so. I mean, the problem that I had at the beginning when I think about ChatGPT is I use it mostly for writing, to enhance my writing. So when I have an idea, I make a draft, and then I want to know how would, for example, Hemingway say that, or what another person, what is a rude way to express that, or what is a very kind way to express that, to just understand the nuances between rudeness and kindness, and how you can be more polite, less polite. And,
that's perfect, because in Sweden, when we communicate with the UK, for example, we really need to be a little bit more polite than we used to. So I think that's a really good tip. I think I will use that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in the Austrian mountains, and it's just direct. You say what you have to
It's
say.
the same, I think, in Sweden. Yeah.
And with ChatGPT, I now understand why people said, "Christian, you are rude." And say, "Well, it's the way I learned it. Well, how should I express it differently?" And they said, "I don't know, but."
But it's still a little bit rude. Yeah. I mean, I think also the Englishmen, it's also their language. So I think it's also easier to be maybe more polite. But I think they are more polite than the Swedes.
And ChatGPT helps me understand these nuances. The problem that I had in the beginning was the answers sounded a little bit artificial. It didn't sound really human. And now the models have just, in my opinion, become better, and it really sounds like human language. It's sentences you can directly use in an email and plug it in. It was not there 2 years ago.
So it sounds great. I will use it more.
So my question now, from writing to ATMP and the hospital setting, how do you see artificial intelligence in your setting? How can you use this, let's say, the Chinese model?
So I think you can use it. Will probably be very important, I think, for the development of ATMPs. So I think we can use it in many different ways. I think for the discovery and the development, the machine learning models, to be able to analyze a lot of data, both genomic and proteomic data, will be very important to identify the targets that can be used for the ATMPs in different conditions. So that will probably be very useful, I think, and I think it's already used. So I think it will just improve through the years. And I think also we see that there can, for the drug discovery, so we can also use AI to better understand how you can simulate how the product will interfere or how it will act when it's in the human body. So you can maybe avoid some of the experiments that you would have to do otherwise. And that would be also, I think, very efficient way of using AI. And maybe we can also help to identify more specific patient subgroups to be enrolled into clinical trials, but also to be, so you get sort of a better tailored patient into the specific trial, and then you will see maybe even better results if you are able to pick the right patients for the right treatment. And this is not only for ATMP. I think it's more of a general improvement, I think. And if we have also the possibility to use AI for the and optimization for the manufacturing and the bioprocessing, that would also be improving and sort of the process of development and manufacturing, I think.
How can AI help in manufacturing?
Sorry?
How can artificial intelligence help in manufacturing?
No, but I think if we have processes that are more automated and you can use AI to understand how to do that, that would be great. But also if you can have quality controls, you can pick the right ones, and you can secure the sort of the quality of the product by using the right ones that can be identified maybe by artificial intelligence, and understanding how to take the experience that you have and put onto a new product. That could also be very useful, I think.
Yeah, it's the time of the robots. I think it was Alex Savoronko from In Silico Medicine who posted a picture with one of I think it was a Tesla model, Tesla robot, I forgot the name. And he said he has a lab in China, and he said he will buy some robots for his lab and fully automate the process.
Oh, that's amazing, yeah.
This in combination, robotics in combination with artificial intelligence, I think is, especially in the manufacturing, there must be a lot of potential.
Yeah, I assume this isn't my sort of specific expertise area, but I think I can only imagine. I think people who work within this field will probably have more to add, but just in general, I think it could, of course, be very, very useful.
Mine neither. I just always, when I see these pictures of these Tesla robots and then the ideas of researchers like Alex, it always reminds me of Terminator 1984 movie, where this was just science fiction. And it was unbelievable that a robot might walk and look like a human. And now it's 40 years later. I think I was 10 years old in 1984. Terminator, so my parents were not really happy when I wanted to see the movie. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's an Austrian.
Yeah, I remember it, but I didn't watch it because I was the same age. I was born in 74 as well, but I thought it was a bit scary. Was it 1984, right?
I think it was 1984. I remember it with 1984. It was also Steve Jobs had this famous speech where he painted IBM as the villain with this dystopian utopia, Orwellian dystopia, and Apple the good guys who fight for freedom and privacy and the rights of people. And then there was Terminator 1984.
Okay. That's amazing. Yeah.
It was a fun year, and we were 10 years old. So
yeah. So I don't remember these parts. I have other memories from that year, I think.
Yeah, it was. I got interested in computers, and Apple was always a little bit too expensive. But I had this Commodore computer, and as a boy, I think it was natural to start to get interested in that new technology.
Yeah, I remember my father had also an Apple computer. Maybe it was a little bit later, but it was quite early. And I remember it was the Apple with the colors back then.
Yeah, Apple was really innovative, but too expensive for private use. Commodore was the alternative for boys. It was more affordable.
Yeah.
When we go back to ATMPs, what is a common misconception on the market that you frequently encounter that people have and we could clear up in this podcast?
Misconception. I don't hear much about that actually, but I know that before, early on, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of discussions about gene therapies, and there had been a few not as successful therapies back then. But I think sometimes people think that if you are treated or with a gene therapy, this will sort of be something that is permanent for your kid, and your kids will also have this modification and things like that if you are treated with this at an early age. But there are no gene therapies available or approved that are focusing on the germline cells, the sperms and the eggs. So we don't treat those. So what we treat are the other cells within the body, which are not reproducible. So they are just so the modification just stays within the person, and sometimes and it might be the effect might be life long, and we hope that many of the treatments are lifelong, but they are not transferred to your kids, which is could be the one that you hear about. And I think sometimes also people just think it's not safe enough, and this also puts, I think you need to have the awareness of what type of conditions that this might be useful for. So if there are conditions that that are life-threatening, for example, this might be a good choice. And but I think we need to be aware of this, that we still do not have life long follow-up, because these products are new products and we have not seen that yet. But we are adding years, of course, to the follow-up every year. So I think we will know more and more. But of course, we should be aware of the risks, and I think that our authorities are watching this very closely as well.
I think we as Europeans are naturally good in observing and finding risks.
Yeah.
and avoiding them with regulations.
Mm. Yeah.
When was the first product commercially available in this field? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, and I'm a bit. I should, of course, be very aware, but I think maybe in 2012 or something. It wasn't that long time. It could be a little bit earlier than that. But we just saw a few products, and now we see that the number of products are increasing, that are approved are increasing every year. And we see a lot of products in clinical trials, but I think around that. But many or a few of the products that were approved early on is no longer on the market for different reasons. Maybe they have a new product for the same type of treatment, so they are now have the approval for the second product. But also some products have been difficult to be sort of, it has not been able to commercialize in a way that you were hoping, because if we have some products that have been very expensive, and the countries and the healthcare systems have not really seen that this type of condition, we cannot put that much money into treatment of this type of condition, for example, and then the company has chosen not to renew their approval in Europe. So we see this, but there are actually no products that has been approved that have been removed for safety reasons or anything, but it has been other reasons. Maybe there are some products that they have in the US, for example,